Sweet, bro. We're happy 420. Yeah,
Happy 420, bro.
Ish on my side, anyway.
Because, it's a 13-hour difference, right? So at least it's 420 on one side of the world.
Somewhere in the world. It's always 420 some part of the world, eh? So cheers. Well, probably shouldn't celebrate too much.
Not celebrate too much, yeah.
Yeah. In light of
just have some plain water, some plain water.
Yeah?
It's nice and healthy, like.
Funky in here, but,
that looks like a candle.
I know it does look like a candle.
No, it's not a candle. Sorry, it's a liquid candle.
Candle jar.
Yeah.
Well, it looks somewhat innocuous, but it contains some meds. So some homemade CBD chai here. So I had chilled.
CBD chai. Oh,
yeah, you can get CBD over here in the UK, thankfully.
Nice.
Yeah, just not the good stuff, if you know what I mean. Welcome to the Balanced Purpose podcast from opposite ends of the globe on quite a momentous week, really, that we're having at the moment, isn't it? So much is going on, bro.
Yeah.
So much is going on.
We are right on the date where the referendum results were formally calculated and released to public. So what we had was a percentage of 50.7% of the vote saying no. And I can't remember the other
48.4, I think.
48.4?
Yes, but it was very close.
We were trying to make sense of this a week ago when the preliminary results were released, and it was more like 43 point something. Can't remember what the exact numbers were. So we were digesting this, and we were processing, what the finding was, because I think for us we are more on the pro side, and pro legalization side. We were having the impression that New Zealand would be progressive enough to embrace the idea of decriminalization, legalization for cannabis, for the purpose of recreational and also for the purpose of reducing crime and adding to the medicinal cannabis that's already available right now. So it does come as a slight, it comes as a disappointment that New Zealand voted in overall no for the referendum. So we have been thinking and wondering what would be the next steps from here.
I'll say this. I guess one of the reasons I feel so personally and emotionally invested in this is because I feel strongly about civil liberties. In general, and I guess you could say that is in part, and I've shared this with you in private, but I've been more vocal about it recently. That's really a major reason why I left New Zealand, because I was hoping to move somewhere a little bit more progressive, if you like. But hey, look, I've ended up in the UK. I don't know if that's better or worse, really. In the scheme of things, every country has its virtues and vices, if you like, and all that. But what's been swirling around my head actually in the past few hours, trying to make sense of these results and all that, is that it's very close. So it does show that really it's a 50-50 split, essentially. It's within the margin of error. It's even more finely split, actually, than the Brexit vote here in the UK, which divided the country. And in a way, we're still dealing with, the aftermath of it. And so I guess what this shows is that with such contentious issues, you really have to walk a fine line as a leader, as a politician, and it'll be interesting to see how Jacinda steers things from this point forward, given that she has now publicly announced that she actually voted yes in the referendum, and so did I think Andrew Little too, who is Minister of Justice, and other cabinet ministers. So these are some of the top politicians in our country who have come out in support of it. So what does this mean now? Now that Labour has an absolute majority, what's going to happen? Not sure, but I think we're still processing this. So this is very fresh.
Yeah, I agree with you. The progressiveness is something that I believe in much more strongly. I believe in the law reform for the sake of seeing this more of a in light of a health issue, rather than a criminal issue. So definitely, I'm for the idea that cannabis should be decriminalized, so that we can talk about it more openly and freely. And I understand firsthand, because I literally had a history with potentially running into the law with regards to my. I mean, I'll be open about this. I got expelled from school because of cannabis. It got found on me, and but there's a lot of threats around that.
Back in Christchurch,
Yeah, back in Christchurch. When I was in my sixth form, I was in a high school, and I wasn't the best of students at the time. I had my own issues, but I'll say, it's more related to mental health issues. And I was taking it out in alcohol, and by taking alcohol, and also it was probably my second time discovering weed and smoking weed, cannabis, and for some reason I got found out, and my track record wasn't really that good. So I, as part of navigating that whole issue around being found out, obviously the penalties were quite large for being in high school. I was definitely underage too, so by no means justifying my behavior. But there's a threat, like, we have to kick you out. You have to keep hush hush about it, but we won't tell the police. Suddenly, it could be used in that sort of way. Now, if I was brought forward to the police, my future here in New Zealand would be entirely different. I probably would not get my permanent residency, then my citizenship, and all that stuff. Because it wasn't necessary because I was really seeking out the cannabis. I was seeking out a way to ask for attention. Like, hey, I need help here. I'm actually in distress. I was in distress. So it should really be a mental health issue, not a criminal justice thing.
Right. Yes.
And of course, you can't imagine how many other people are affected by this as well, because there actually people who are actually incarcerated as a result of this. And then many others are using it, and they don't get a chance to talk about it because they are afraid of being arrested
or judged, for that matter.
And judged. So definitely for the sake of society, I feel that this is better addressed straight up. So but then if I bring it back to the present now, then we talked about the split, right? The 50-50 split.
Yes, let's get into this.
Actually, it's tremendous to know that there's a lot of support for that. Like, literally half the country is in support of this. And
that's true.
It's actually quite a good, the best way to describe this is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? If you're optimistic, you're just going, the glass is half full.
Okay. I like that. I dig that. Yeah. I dig that. It's again. This is I think why it's great having your optimism on this issue right now. Actually, because I mean, obviously going through the Facebook, feeds and all that. There's a lot of kind of doom and gloom out there at the moment, certainly. And in a way, you can say that this is a little bit of an echo chamber too, because obviously, our peers also have similar views to us around, it being open to, adults being able to access this, like they have access to alcohol and cigarettes and any other substance that ought to be controlled. And yeah, it's just, it's going to be interesting how we move forward, because I mean, Jacinda has made it very clear that she wants to lead for all New Zealanders, but half of New Zealand wants weed to be legalized and half doesn't. So how is she going to balance that?
Yeah, we did talk about what to do next, because okay, first of all, I'm going to go back to the basics, that this is a non-binding referendum, which means that whatever the decisions made, the government still can veto and change it, or things can still change. Yeah. So the government right now can go, you know what? I don't have to make a decision about that. Or even if it gets passed as a yes, we all be celebrating, but they will say, if half the population, or if like 48% of people say no, then they'll be like, okay, no, maybe I still won't pass this, because it's so split. So I'll go back to the bill and how it's written. And I'll be quite honest with you. As someone who has had a past and somewhat present with cannabis, I well, I hope no one's going to arrest me. This is not evidence, is it?
This is banter. What are you talking about?
It's just banter. Yeah, no, it's nothing on my fingers. No. Oh, well, yes, I used cannabis and I got expelled for that. Okay, that's a long time ago. Okay. Anyway, what I do want to allude towards is that I know, I can see the benefits of it. I've used it for even mental health. It's useful. It's useful for that. I can see how it's useful for pain relief too. So there's a medicinal element to it, and I did benefit from it. Now I also could see the downfall of it, because I had been psychologically addicted to it, and the effects of it. And I found myself smoking again and again and again, every day, and it did affect my mood in a bad way. I'm just being as fair as I can, as a pro person, right? I decided I was gonna quit, and I quit because I found myself being in the same headspace again and again, and it didn't serve me. And I was like, after a while, and this is an entirely personal experience. It's not the same with everyone. I just went, I'm actually not enjoying this. I'm actually feeling a little bit paranoid, a bit anxious every time I smoke this. Why? Then why would I want to subject myself to that again and again and again? So I caught myself doing that, and I just went, you know what? I'm not interested. This is not fun anymore. So I stopped. I stopped for a long time. Occasionally, now and then, I smoke every now and then. I don't get into that space. That just shows that I just needed the moderation, and I moderated myself. So I self-regulated on that aspect. Now, not everyone experiences this like me. Some people just are completely functional. They smoke a ton, and they're still conversant. They can do whatever, they can read or write a book, or they can go to work. Some people are really functional on their own work. I'm like, power to them. I'm not like that. And then there's some people that really lose their sense of self as well. So I can see the harmful aspects of cannabis. So the way the bill is written, and how the quantities around dosage, like you're able to buy 14 grams, I thought that was a little bit much. I mean, you really don't need that much strong weed. You know, you don't have to buy in bulk at a time. If you need to, fine, go and get 5 grams at a time. I think it's more reasonable.
Right.
And in BC, you had to get a card from the dispensary that you get it from. So you need a membership. Now I thought that's better sense of accountability or there needs to be a certain degree of regulation. Now I found this bill a little bit too laissez-faire.
Right. So you're in favor of greater parameters around access and availability. Okay.
Yes.
I get that.
Okay. Short answer is yes. I voted yes, legalize. I had a yes vote based on the principle that we cannot criminalize this anymore. It's better legal than that. Yeah. So for me, it's a yes vote.
Right.
But did I agree with every aspect of the detail in the bill? No, I didn't.
Right. And in a sense, that was the whole point, perhaps, of voting yes for this, so that the bill can pass, and so this thing can be debated in Parliament, and then it can go through a select committee process, and then we can actually get all the heavyweights on this, the scientists, the medical researchers, the psychiatrists, and all that, all the relevant experts, if you like, who have some knowledge of cannabis and cannabis use and so forth to weigh in on this. This in a sense is a missed opportunity, because now we don't get to further this discussion. It's on the table, we've talked about it, but it's kind of been left unfinished. There's unfinished business there, and it will certainly, I think, leave a really sour taste in the mouth for a lot of people. Certainly you feel that there's some injustice that's been done here. So I wonder what the way forward from here is. Perhaps, do we generate more conversations? Do we campaign again? Well, what's next?
That's a good question. And to be honest, I feel that if the government were to be quite aware about the split, the most sensible thing is to come to a win-win solution for both. Now, the thing about the problem about voting on a bill is like you cannot separate the people who are talking about the details versus the people who kind of agree. I mean, I have met people who voted no, but not based on, but based on the technicalities of the bill.
Yeah,
and also sure, there are people who don't really are not that informed about it. I think that's a major part of the assumption. But a lot of people are really informed. There's this one American that I knew voted no because they saw the impact of laissez-faire legalization in the States that has attracted corporations to come in to wipe out local growers and produce products that are not very, very good. Particularly on the, those kind of major corporations that have a really bad name already.
Like Monsanto and so forth.
Perhaps. We're not here to say whether that's the fact or not, but that's the vote that they place, because they didn't want big companies like that to come in. So laissez-faire, too laissez-faire.
True, fair enough. Yeah. Right.
And then
I get that.
Yeah. So then how do you separate those people that voted that way for those reasons from the people who are like misinformed, or for whatever moral reasons, maybe there might be Christians who say, no, we don't accept drugs in our community, and we have a hotline about that. That's their principle. Okay, fine. That's their values. Okay, that's fine. But how do you separate that? You can't.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. So that's interesting. Wow, there's so much to unpack here. So I think, firstly, what you've highlighted there is that there are nuances, really, even within the yes camp and the no camp. So even within see the yes camp, as you've highlighted, you voted yes, but you do have certain concerns about, for example, you've mentioned that perhaps having access to 40 joints per day is a little bit excessive. I get that. I wonder though if this is simply about placing an upper limit. Not to say that you're encouraging the use. So it's not to say, hey, you should smoke up to 40 joints a day. It's just saying, hey, you can purchase up to this one. Because if you think about how the law currently applies to controlled substances like alcohol and tobacco, yeah, you can purchase them, and you have to be 18, and there's no limit. And one could also have a mounted argument that perhaps we should even have no limit on weed, legal weed. But I do see that perhaps because this is a new substance, perhaps it needs to be staggered a little bit. You can't just open the floodgates type thing. So I understand that there may be some need for restraint. So I think there seems to be some general agreement perhaps that there needs to be a reasonable and responsible upper limit, at least to begin with. And I think that's perhaps something that we could all converge on, because, see, I think even within the no camp, there are nuances as well. So I recently had a chat with an old friend of mine, actually, from my ACT Party days. This is an old liberal, a libertarian, and he told me he voted no. And when I unpacked this with him, he said, well, there were two key reasons, really. One was the 40 joint limit as well. And I kind of fleshed it out with him and said, hey, look, this is not to say that you should do that. It's just, that's a limit. But secondly, he said he became a dad in recent years, and he's thinking about his kids and their future. And does he want weed to be a normalized part of their lives? He's I guess, wearing his kind of paternalistic hat here. He's thinking, no. So even though he's a libertarian in terms of his personal life, he has to think now as a parent, and he has to think about other people. So there's all these competing interests here the way up, which is really interesting, because actually this shows that this debate is just a lot more complex, perhaps, and complicated than a lot of people have given it credit for. And maybe in the New Zealand context, it needs to be fleshed out, because, yeah, I mean, look, I think a lot about what's going on overseas in Canada and various states in America, but perhaps the climate, the political climate in North America is different from what's happening in New Zealand. So maybe it's not fair to really compare these regions, even though obviously it's a similar issue. So yeah, perhaps we time.
Yeah. So what I'm alluding to in my assessment, in my judgment, is that there are more supporters of pro-cannabis people, even within the no camp. Then it's the technicality of the bill. Another one that I want to bring up is the smoking thing, and this is with regards to the, you mentioned, don't open the floodgates so soon. I really do agree that actually is the proper way to go. You allow medicinal cannabis, which is legal now, and then you allow a little bit more and a little bit more, and then we just see when we want to hold back. Now, the thing that New Zealand is very hardline on, if we do want to acknowledge that, is tobacco. Tobacco smoking excise tax. It's very, very high. New Zealand has one of the highest tax rates for tobacco. They're trying to cut out smoking in a very big way. Now the thing is, because this is the culture of New Zealand, and maybe it goes back to the misinformation for people who don't know cannabis smoke. Cannabis smoke is very different from tobacco smoke. As you know, tobacco smoke is heavy and it's more damaging on the lungs. So whereas cannabis smoke can actually have healing effects in a different way. But it's also known that there are some carcinogens in cannabis smoke. No, not as intense as tobacco smoke, for sure. Now, to the untrained person, they don't really know how to make the difference.
Correct. That's right.
So if the original bill was smart enough to say, we allow recreational cannabis, but only in the vape form or in the edible or vape form, the consumables, not necessarily in the smoke form, it would have been a much more sensible compromise. Because a lot of cannabis users, we're happy to use a vape.
Right, right. I dig that. So what you're advocating for here is that there will be some forms of cannabis use that will be allowed, or have some cannabis products that will be allowed, and some not, perhaps. So it's about creating a legal a market just for a select few products, and to manage that first. Okay.
I think so. I think so. And then once it's legalized in that sort of way, then test it. Get the scientists, the medical professionals involved to test cannabis smoke and the effects of that.
Okay.
I mean, maybe the compromise is allowed for research, but not really allowed for the market just yet. So the market can enjoy vapes. And seriously, we enjoy vapes. Yeah. I mean, who we complain about it? No, normalize the vape. All right, great. That's fine. Now, the pro people won't be concerned about it because they still can have the product. But their compromise is that, hey, we won't smoke because we need to understand and research it a little bit more first to make sure that it's safe.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Mind you, it must also be said that there was, I guess, quite a significant misinformation campaign that was mounted, by certain groups in the months leading up to the vote. Now, I mean, this obviously happens in any political context. You have competing interests, lobby groups, and whatnot, who obviously are trying to push their agenda and all that. But I wonder too if maybe the pro camp could have done perhaps a better job of perhaps battling this misinformation, if you like. And this is maybe a one for the checklist of things to improve on next time. Perhaps we all have the benefit of hindsight now, I guess, on how to maybe do it better next time. But I just wonder if maybe there was obviously a war of words that went on between the pro and the anti camps, and it sounds like the anti camp came out trumps, actually. No pun intended at all. That's the reality we're dealing with. Yeah, if you want something to fail badly enough, you may be prepared to tell a few fibs about things, perhaps. I mean, that's the political arena. Yeah. So,
how the no campaign actually probably won, I believe, is actually very simple. You're tickling a human emotion that we are all driven by, and will respond to, and that's the fear of change, the fear of the unknown. Now, we've been through 2020, a lot of uncertainty. Now, all they need to do is say, there's uncertainty with this bill. If you legalize cannabis, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty, a lot of repercussions, a lot of unintended consequences. All they have to do is just reinforce that. And then we had a year of that already. It's very easy to fall into that.
Yeah.
Just use fear. Fear will always override, the emotion of fear will override your sensibility and progressive thinking.
Sure. Yes. Oh, for sure. It's actually, you're right. This plays right into human nature. It's easier to get someone to be scared of something than to get someone excited about something. So
yeah, absolutely. I believe
part of our nature as well. Yeah. Okay.
That's why humans are actually designed to be resistant to change.
Yes, that's true.
Well, I say design, but we evolved though.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there was I mean, there was a certain comfort in security and surety, and and obviously upheaval is not pleasant, and we've had a lot of that this year. It's fair to say, and the year's not even over. So yeah, I can imagine it might just be another door that some aren't willing to open. It's just too much that's going on right now. Okay, I get that. Yeah. Mind you, yeah. I wanted to, if perhaps some of the messaging could have been tied up a little bit, perhaps from the pro camp. For example, clarifying that legalization doesn't equate to encouragement. So this isn't about trying to get the population stoned as much as possible. Although obviously, for those who have an interest in the use and who have a recreational interest, sure they want to indulge it for themselves. And I'm of the view that any responsible adult should have access to any vice they so choose, as long as they're not doing any harm to others. But yeah, I can certainly see how perhaps some of the anti-camp might have painted this as perhaps a hedonistic thing. It's about trying to encourage people just to get high. And there is a certain, I guess, conservative element in the New Zealand mainstream that's maybe we shouldn't be encouraging vices. Period. So could be that too. I don't know.
There's unknowns as well. For a lot of these people in the no camp, they could easily just say, well, yeah, sure, even if these people aren't intentionally going out to harm people, they might get into a car half-baked and cause an accident, and somehow someone else might be affected by that. And how willing are you going to take that risk by saying yes to the referendum?
Right. Okay.
You see, it's back to fear again.
And I think this goes back to a fundamental lack of knowledge, actually, about the substance. That I would say some perhaps who oppose the legalization are quite happy to peddle, this kind of misinformation, all that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's quite the opposite. If anything, obviously you don't want to be driving on any substance, but it's still a lot more unsafe. Let's put it this way: it's a lot more unsafe to be driving under the influence of alcohol than under the influence of weed.
Oh yeah, so, for sure. Right, and look, it also is unpredictable because everyone is different, right? Some people actually can drive under the influence of alcohol. Not that I'm promoting it, but some people can. Some people are just terrible drivers on alcohol. And then some other people are good drivers on cannabis, and really, really good drivers on cannabis. Some people are hopeless at driving on cannabis.
Hopeless too, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so it's a real mix, and with the real mix, there's no sense of being able to quantify the data, and to know where people are at. So what's to say someone who's if we're having enough trouble with drink driving, why do we want to encourage another form of intoxicated driving with people who don't know the substance, how they react to it? Now that's a risk.
Right. So there is a case for let's try and minimize the use of intoxicants in general, because there are harmful consequences. For example, if you misuse it and you combine that with, say, operating a vehicle, you could do harm to yourself and others and all that. Okay. I see that. But then this becomes an argument about intoxicants in general, and then it becomes a question of, do we want to have a regulatory scheme for every substance out there? So, which is interesting because in the state of Oregon, they've just voted to decriminalize. So not to legalize, but to decriminalize all drugs, everything, crack, heroin, everything. And the idea behind it is that if you possess some amount of any of the stuff, you won't be penalized, but you will perhaps be referred to a health facility and all that. And then it becomes a health issue, as it should be. But I think this approach, I'm still getting my head around some of the nuances of what's going on there. I don't know much about history of Oregon's drug laws and all that, to be honest. But But certainly it's an interesting development because it shows that some have argued for decriminalization as perhaps a stepping stone towards legalization. So I mean, perhaps we don't have the time to get into all the nuances of that right now. But certainly, I think there seems to be some kind of convergence around the idea that let's do this step by step, yeah? Revolution by evolution. So let's not charge right ahead. I mean, some of us would very much like that, but perhaps that's not the mood of the nation, and that's the reality. The reality is that nearly 51% of New Zealanders voted no. So that's something we have to deal with. And I think the numbers were something like 1.5 million New Zealanders. So this is a significant number of people who have some form of opposition towards it. And so, you know, these people could be our family members, our next door neighbors, you know, our partners, even whatever. So we have to live with these people. We have to find a way to live with them and not, you know, scratch their faces out. Right?
Yeah.
So,
well, what I suggest for everyone who's disappointed with the referendum results is to start to understand why some people say no for whatever reasons, because it's really, really complex. I think the most legitimate reasons of saying no is actually down to the details of the bill. Just straight up there. It would be unhelpful to assume that everyone is uninformed and dumb. Or you know, and even if it's a religious reason, I still feel that's a fair reason, because it's just a value thing, you know. And they want to believe what they want to believe, that's fine, you know. And if cannabis is not part of their belief, then what can you do? It's just how it is. It's like different people have different values.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't jump to conclusions that people are not you know, all people are uninformed, and just to generalize them as all idiots or something. Well, part of a democracy is to represent all sorts of beliefs, even if it's the beliefs that don't represent what we believe in. And I think we need to take initiative to start understanding the other side, and that's where we come to the balanced perspective around this. You know, a balanced view, the middle way. To work out a win-win solution. You know, it's still quite possible to work towards half the population, both sides feeling a little bit more considered as part of this referendum result. Meaning, and my proposal is that we can still progress a version of this bill, but in a way that's more measured, more calculated, more progressive. The current bill is very 0 to 100. It kind of is.
It was in a sense.
Yeah. So let's not go 0 to 100. Let's go 0 to 50, since the referendum results marked the 50% split. What does it look like? What does a 50% of that bill look like? And I feel that if you address the smoking issue, you address the accountability issue, like the license or something like that, and reduce the amount that you can purchase, and what I say, the smoking, the vape thing. I think vape is great, and also look at the constraints of edibles too, and how to regulate edibles, because I do have a huge problem with edibles myself. It's too strong and too underregulated, and it's just it's tricky. It's really tricky. So
I agree with this. I think Canada's a good test case for that, actually.
Oh my God, it's a mess when it got legalized, and people see that. It was a mess. People got hospitalized because they haven't had cannabis before, and they're supposed to have half a gummy, but no one in their right mind has half a gummy. You have 5, so you have 5 gummies, and what happens after you have 5 can of gummies? You spin out like never before. And if that's your first time ever on legal weed, illegal cannabis, oh my God, it's going to change you forever.
No, that's fair enough. I think what this shows is that restraint is sometimes wise, and also it means that perhaps we do need a little bit more research. So I do agree that there is perhaps, you know, when something's new, there is, and you're doing a trial and error type thing. Sometimes you may tend to overdo it, maybe get a bit excited or whatever, and you overdose or whatever. I'll say this: when sometimes when I'm cooking, I find myself erring on the side of over spicing my food because I just like it so much. I'm like, I want to heat this on, but then it's too much, right? And so sometimes less is more. Yeah, and certainly, I mean, so I'll share a personal anecdote with you. You remember back in, I don't know if I've shared this with you ever before, so you're hearing this for the first time. I think, you know, whoever is watching this is as well. In early 2017, I came to visit you while you were living in Vancouver at the time. And before I flew to see you, I was actually in a different part of Canada. And let's just say that where I was staying at the time, the night before I caught my flight to Vancouver, I visited a local store that had some local produce. And one of the vendors, I picked up this ricey bar, essentially. And the dude said to me, you want to go easy on it, buddy. Just take an eighth of it first. And then gradually take more. And I thought, nah, this is just upselling his product or whatever. All right, so I bought the thing. I went back to my hotel. I chomped on the whole thing. And I lost my consciousness within 20 minutes. I woke up half an hour before I was meant to catch my taxi to catch a flight to fly to Vancouver. So I almost missed my flight because of an edible. I almost missed the flight.
Oh my God! Yeah, wow.
And he was right. I should only have taken an eighth of that thing.
But who on earth? Yeah, who on earth eats an eighth of a ricey bar?
Well, exactly. Who does it? It's just impractical. It's impractical. So yeah,
it's made for one dose.
Yeah.
And in fact, some people go to the extent of eating two. You know.
Yeah. Red pill or blue pill, both.
Oh no!
Yeah. People can do that. Yeah. Okay.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Okay. So I think what this shows is that you know, self-restraint and self-discipline isn't, you know, a trait that all of us exercise all the time. So this is actually an argument for regulation. This is really interesting because, look, there is a part of me, you know, and I don't say there is an anarchist / libertarian side of me that's all about no regulations whatsoever, none, right? But then at the same time, there's a part of me that realizes actually we're all idiots at some point. We all are. And I put my hand up. And I've been an idiot many times. We're idiots. So if we don't impose these parameters on ourselves, then maybe we need some kind of external mechanism to impose on us, right? Yeah, I don't know. That's the whole big brother argument. I mean, that's the whole left-right argument. Big government, small government. It's like, yeah, but we kind of do need some kind of intervention because we're fucking dumb sometimes. I think that's the truth.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk in being, you know, having people just get out there in the wild west to yeah. So you're right. I see people, human beings, we test boundaries. In the end, as old as we are, we like to push. We're like kids. How far can we go? How far can we go? How far can we go? Then we learn a big lesson and be like, oh, no. Too much.
We push those limits. Yeah.
So
mind you, sometimes it's okay to push those limits. I mean, that's why, you know, we've conquered the seas and that's how we've discovered the world, because we push those boundaries. So sometimes it's okay, but then in some other things, like maybe with substance use, perhaps we got to understand that those boundaries mean that if we teeter over the edge, it could mean some harm to ourselves, our mental health, or whatever might be. And the addiction matter you brought up earlier is absolutely relevant, because I mean, I have addiction issues myself too, and I'll put my hand up and say that. I mean, I struggled with tobacco for 15 years, and that was the hardest thing to kick for me. And you know, to an extent, you could say that, you know, I'm addicted to sugar as well. Perhaps, you know, I'm still trying to, no pun intended, but I'm trying to weed this out of my diet. The weed can stay, the sugar needs to go though. But so, you know, and I mean, am I addicted to sugar? Probably. I'm probably addicted. I mean, some research says that it's actually 8 times more addictive than cocaine even. You know, so it's, you know, I mean, so do I have an addictive personality? Yes, I do. I'm aware of that. But I like to think I have enough self-restraint to be able to pull myself back if need be. But then the question becomes, like, what if anyone falters and they cannot do so? Right? Is there a safeguard that needs to be in place? So this is perhaps this perhaps showcases the need for better education and awareness around this, actually, because ultimately there's still a lot of unknowns, and you're right, when there's unknowns there's fears, so that is relevant. We have to recognize that.
But I think all in all, just as a way to wrap up this, how are we gonna like move forward with that? I feel what the Labour government, if they're wise about it, is to really respond to the fact that half the population are wanting this.
Precisely.
If they ignore it, it makes half the nation a little bit cheesed off.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And this is where I think maybe both houses need to come together too, in some respect, because the yes camp needs to recognize that the no camp has legitimate concerns, and it's really the right thing to do to take those concerns seriously rather than rubbish them. As much as we personally disagree with them, we have to at least recognize they're legitimate in having disagreement. Okay? At the same time, perhaps the no camp also needs to recognize that the yes camp isn't going away anytime soon. We're still talking 48.4, still nearly 50%, nearly half the country that would very much like it legalized in some way, shape, or form. And their concerns are also legitimate, and so we need to find a way forward. You're absolutely right. And also, perhaps there needs to be a recognition too that maybe the tide is turning towards legalization around the world anyway. The tide in the US in just recent days has shown that several states have started decriminalizing or legalizing anyway. So perhaps it will happen eventually in New Zealand. It's just a matter. It's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when. And so, how do we get there? That is the question perhaps for next time.
But we'll definitely see in the coming days. It's watch the show. I feel confident that we have a good government this time, even with the Greens influencing the Labour government in a quite a significant way. I feel that they will still work towards pushing towards a good win-win solution. Yeah, we know the Prime Minister's view. We know the Health Minister's view about this. And Jacinda is known to be a very balanced sort of leader, and that's what I respect her for. I feel that she will do the right thing here. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but in the coming couple of years within the term, something needs to be done about this. No doubt there might be other priorities at the moment, like housing and stuff. So maybe the focus will go on that for a little while. Let this chill out a little bit and then revisit it again. I think that would be quite, the sensible thing to do, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Also, if you look at the little pieces around as well and how they fit together, now the Māori Party has 2 MPs, not just 1. And overwhelmingly, the Māori Party is for legalization as well. And then you have also a weak National Party, which is good. Because they're generally opposed to it, and then you have a pretty strong ACT Party as well, and there are a bunch of libertarians there, so you find some yeses there too. And then New Zealand is out of Parliament now, and they're mostly a Conservative Party, so the tide is slowly turning. I do see that.
I believe that it was New Zealand First and United Future that were really
heavily opposed. Yeah, both of them. They're gone.
Opposed, they're both gone. So. Yeah, it's a non-binding referendum anyway, so
that's right.
That's actually a good little way to
a test case. What do you think?
Yeah, test case. Yeah,
Okay. I think that's okay.
So back to the initial question: is the glass full or is the glass empty?
Yeah.
I like to say the glass is full.
Yeah, it's full. You think? Not even half full. You think it's full now?
Okay, oh no, half full. Sorry,
half full.
It's half full.
Half full and half empty. Okay. I dig that. I dig that. I'd say that too. I mean, we're splitting hairs there. But I mean, we could say it's 48.4% full, but I mean, it is.
It's pretty half full.
Yeah, it's pretty much half full. We'll get there. So okay. Look, I guess there's many of us who are just impatient for this to happen.
Yeah, we are impatient.
You know
So
what?
we just need a bit of patience, a bit of time. Yeah.
That's true.
We should cheers to this. This is
I think
from
we should.
California. This is
Yeah.
where I discovered this in Oregon.
Oh yeah.
This Legitimacy is a brewery in California. It's a craft brewery, but one of the biggest craft breweries in the world, I think. I believe.
Is that right?
It takes me back to my time in Oregon. So this is a big cheers to Oregon and what they're doing right now.
Big cheers to Oregon. Well, let me join you in a cheers. Here we go. Cha-ching.
Hey!
Hey, boom.
Boom!
All right.
It's not quite half full anymore.
Yeah, this is pretty full, and this is pretty full.
Your halves are made up in various quarters.
Yeah.
But it's definitely quite full. Yeah, I tell you what, it's definitely full of smoke right now.
Oh, it is. So are my lungs. But you know what? It's even more important that we remain full of hope. We need to remain full of hope. It's going to happen.
That's right. Absolutely,
Indeed,
bro.
So,
yeah. Boom.
Right.
Okay.
I look forward to being back in New Zealand some point with you to share a celebratory smoke with you. So until then, bud.
Until then. Peace.